So let's start with just what kinds of things that we might be doing that we don't realize are the wrong things to do, but that are absolutely the things not to do if we're trying to stay engaged and involved in what our children are doing online.
Right. Well, I would say what not to do is come from a place of fear and just feeling like I have to figure this out right now and get all the information.
Okay.
And they must be telling me the truth, and I must get that out of them.
But it's true. All of that is true. We must get it all out of them.
I mean, I understand the urgency for parents, right? I mean, you care about your kids, and especially if you're concerned about them, you might actually have good reason to be concerned about them. So that could make the pressure feel higher to find out everything that they're doing and to make sure that they're telling you the truth and to find it out as soon as possible. But I actually think, just like a lot of the theme that we've talked about in the program today, or the Dalai Lama Center talks about in general, if you think about mindfulness being a way of, in some ways, being centered enough and enough in control of your own emotions to be able to relax a little bit, that actually will help you, I think, be more sensitive and empathetic to what your teenager's going through, ask in a slower way and in a way that is more likely to elicit truthful and comfortable responses. So any feeling of urgency, pressure, and fear, I think actually probably backfires when you approach any conversation with your kids from that place.
It's funny, when you were saying that, I was thinking now, if I had a 2-year-old, if I had to say what are my fears, they would be quite different from a teenage. Mm-hmm. But what's the beginning of the end of this fear that's actually breaking connection between us and our kids, our fear? Because we're not asking them questions about their lives, we're not curious, we're just fearful. So where do we begin?
I think, I'm going to echo a lot of the same things that the previous presenters have talked about. I think it began early. Just begin with open dialogue about what your kids are doing, what your fears are, what you think are the good and bad things about the online or technology and things that they're being exposed to in the language that they can understand and that's appropriate for their age. But I think more than anything, I would say just focus on building the caring and connected relationship between you and your child. And that is a broad statement that extends way beyond talking about technology or talking about the iPad. In many ways, it begins with some of the things that Kim Schonert-Reichel was talking about this morning, right? How can you connect over eggs? This is nothing. Eggs and Kim and the group home she was working at was way before the advent of Facebook, for instance. So when you take that type of interest in your child and you have that sort of connection even at early ages, I think it sets the foundation for everything. It makes it easier then to connect over and have honest dialogue and discourse about technology. Mm-hmm. And then that just makes it easier to do all of those things about technology, but friendships, social relationships, behaviors, fears, bullying, whether offline or online, when they reach the teenage years. And, you are really hitting that point where you're kind of like the limiting isn't working anymore, you have to kind of let go. Your teens are fighting for autonomy. Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it's focusing on that relationship and not on putting the technology first. I really think technology is kind of a big wall, especially if we're not familiar with it, that we just don't open that door and go into because we don't understand it. But you do work with schools and with parents around just that business of helping children have healthy friendships, period. Mm-hmm. So what are some tips you would give? Let's begin with the parents and secondly with the school. Just what are some basic things that we can do in the world, period, not just the online world, that we may or may not be doing?
Sometimes I think that if you're in a good enough state with them, it could actually be helpful to be like, I was at, you know what I spent all day doing? I was actually at this conference about technology and the digital world. And, one thing that I was learning a lot about is what a hashtag is or what different types of emojis are. Let me show you this emoji and let me do you know what this is? Or can I just tell you what I guessed? And I say this because if you're in a situation with there's a student or a teenager where you're not used to having these sorts of conversations, this might actually be a really good icebreaker, because it's not you saying to them, who are you talking to?
Yes.
Who are your friends with? Why are you talking to those people? But it's a way to actually open the conversation where they can teach you something, maybe even laugh a little bit with you at where you're at or your lack of knowledge, and then I would build up to those other questions.